What would you do if, instead of silence, the loss of your hearing brought something else, something darker? What if, in the quiet, you began to hear whispers, revealing secrets you buried long ago? I thought I knew what silence was. When my hearing started to fade, I expected the world to become quieter, to drift into a kind of calm. But instead of silence, something else took its place. It wasn't peaceful at all. It was whispers. Faint, distant at first, like voices hidden just beneath the surface of my mind. They weren't just random sounds, though. These whispers, they were familiar. Too familiar. As my hearing slipped further away, the whispers grew louder. And what they were saying, they were things I hadn't thought about in years. Memories. Secrets. Parts of my past I thought I had buried so deep they'd never come back. But in the quiet, they returned. And the more I listened, the darker it became. This is the story of how silence was replaced by something far more terrifying. Stay with me, because what I uncovered wasn't just memories. It was something much worse. It started slowly. Sounds became muffled, like the world was drifting further and further away. At first, I thought it was just my hearing fading. A natural process, nothing more. Conversations grew softer. Background noises seemed distant. You know that feeling when you've been underwater for too long and everything sounds far away? That was my reality. So I went to the doctors. They told me what I already feared. My hearing was fading, and there was nothing to be done. But as the world became quieter, something else crept in. I didn't get silence. I got whispers. At first, I thought it was just background noise. You know, the kind of static your brain fills in when you're in a quiet room. But no, it wasn't that. The whispers were real. They were faint at first, barely there, like distant voices carried on the wind. I ignored them, chalking it up to my mind adjusting to the silence. But the whispers, they wouldn't go away. One night I was lying in bed and the world was completely still. No sounds, just darkness. That's when I heard it clearly for the first time. A voice, calling my name. It wasn't loud or aggressive, just soft, distant, and chilling. I sat up, confused. No one else was in the house. And yet, there it was. A whisper from the dark, repeating my name. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I felt the first stab of unease. Over the next few days, I started listening more closely. The whispers weren't random. They were saying things I recognized, fragments of memories, pieces of conversations I hadn't thought about in years. And the more I listened, the more I realized they weren't just memories. They were secrets. Things I had buried deep, things I had tried to forget. I became obsessed. Where were these voices coming from? What were they trying to tell me? I started to listen more intently, almost wanting to hear what they would say next. But with every word, the unease grew. These whispers weren't just random thoughts, they were pulling something out of me. And the more I listened, the more I realized. These whispers were revealing parts of me I had long forgotten, parts of my past that I had buried for a reason. I tried to tell myself it was just my mind, maybe some kind of reaction to losing my hearing. But deep down, I knew there was more to it. The whispers weren't just in my head. They were trying to remind me of something I didn't want to remember. The quieter the world became, the louder the whispers grew. And what they were saying, it wasn't something I wanted to hear. I could no longer escape them. They were always there, lurking at the edge of my consciousness. They spoke of things I didn't want to face, dark secrets I had pushed away, forgotten. But the whispers didn't care about what I wanted to forget. They grew louder, more insistent, until they were all I could hear. It wasn't long before the whispers began revealing things I had buried, mistakes I'd made, people I had hurt. They weren't just reminders, they were accusations, twisting my memories, making them darker, worse. They distorted the truth until I couldn't tell what was real anymore. The voices weren't just from my past, they were from people who were no longer here. Voices of the dead, twisted and warped, speaking to me from the silence. I started to remember things I had worked so hard to forget. Moments of shame, of guilt, of pain. The whispers dragged them out of the depths of my mind, forcing me to confront them. Every time I thought I had pushed the memories away for good, the whispers would bring them back. But they didn't stop at just reminding me. No, they took those memories and twisted them, warped them until I didn't know if what I remembered was the truth or just a nightmare the whispers had created. It felt like the whispers were pulling me deeper into my own mind, forcing me to relive my worst moments. And the more I listened, the more I began to fear that I wasn't just hearing my past, I was hearing something far worse. The line between the real world and the whispers started to blur. I couldn't tell what was in my head and what was happening around me. Objects in my home began to move, shifting when I wasn't looking. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, flickering like they were alive. I felt like I was constantly being watched, but there was no one there, just me and the whispers. I tried everything to block them out. Music, white noise, covering my ears. Nothing worked. The whispers only grew louder, more demanding. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think. My mind was filled with their constant presence, and no matter what I did, they wouldn't stop. I tried to silence them. I tried everything. But the whispers, they were never coming from outside. They were always inside. Every dark secret, every shameful memory, every moment I had buried deep, they were mine. The whispers were my own voice, twisted and distorted by guilt and fear. I had spent so long trying to forget, trying to move on, but the whispers wouldn't let me. They forced me to face everything I had been running from. I had thought I was losing my hearing, but what I was really losing was my mind. The whispers had been there all along, waiting for me to finally hear them. My grip on reality slipped away entirely. I started seeing things, figures from my past, standing right in front of me, accusing me, reminding me of what I had done. But they weren't real. They couldn't be real. Could they? I couldn't tell anymore. Every moment felt like a waking nightmare, and the line between my thoughts and the world around me was gone. In a last, desperate attempt to escape, I isolated myself. I locked myself away, hoping the whispers would fade in the silence. But they didn't. They only grew louder, more chaotic, until they were all I could hear. In the end, I understood that there was no escaping the whispers. They were a part of me, a part I had been trying to avoid for too long. The secrets, the guilt, the buried memories, they were never truly gone. They had always been there, just beneath the surface, waiting for me to listen. And now that I had heard them, there was no turning back. Because the whispers, they were me. In the end, I wasn't losing my hearing. I was losing myself. Because silence doesn't exist when the loudest sounds come from inside your own mind. I spent so long trying to escape the whispers, trying to find peace in the quiet. But the truth is, there is no escape from the parts of yourself you've buried. The whispers weren't some supernatural force haunting me. They were me. My thoughts, my fears, and my regrets, twisted into something I could no longer ignore. I realize now that the horror was never in losing my hearing. It was in facing the parts of my past I had tried to forget, the things I buried deep, hoping they'd stay hidden forever. But the mind has a way of bringing those secrets to the surface, forcing you to confront them when you least expect it. And I have to wonder, how many of us carry whispers in our minds, waiting to be heard? How many of us have tried to forget something, only to feel it creeping back, growing louder the more we try to silence it? What happens when the things we've pushed away refuse to stay silent? The whispers weren't an isolated incident. They were the sound of something much darker, something we all carry with us. And I'm not alone in this. How many of you have your own whispers, your own buried thoughts, just waiting to be heard? What happens when they start speaking louder than the world around you? Stay tuned for more stories, where the mind becomes the true battlefield for fear, and where the deepest horrors lie not in what we see or hear, but in the things we can't. What other secrets are waiting to emerge from the depths of silence? What nightmares live in the spaces we don't want to face? Keep watching, because this journey into the mind is just beginning.